Tom Torero from Europe, podcast 72, Failure Stories Part 2. Royal fuck-ups, you could call this. Blue balls, whatever. The opposite of notches, lays, victories. We shall dive deep into some more Torero failure stories. First of all, the upsell once again about live training. My last live training of the year. I'm coming to Europe in October with Craig Cassidy, my wing and fellow coach. It's the Outlaw Street Hustle Euro Tour 2016. Cologne, 15th of October. Munich, 17th of October. Vienna, 19th of October. Prague, 21st of October. Krakow, 23rd of October. Each is a one-day training session, 12 till 5 p.m. 2-to-1 instructor ratio, wireless mics, 600 British pounds. Email me, tom@tomtorero.com. There's 1 or 2 places left for each of those dates. All right, failure stories part 2. I say part 2 because part 1 was about 2 years ago, almost to this day. I think I was sitting somewhere in rural Russia recording one of my very early podcasts. The quality was pretty shit. I was probably umming and ahhing. It shows you that failure can lead to success, that dodginess can lead to experience, as Oscar Wilde said. Experience is the name we give to our mistakes. So perhaps if you've listened from podcast number 1 to podcast number 72, you might think, yeah, Tom got a bit better at the old podcast thing. Well, it's just the same, obviously, with a skill set, like day game, like tennis, like golf, like DJing, like masturbation, whatever. You get better with time. But that doesn't mean that you can get rid of the quote-unquote failures. Game has more failures than successes, if you zoom out and look at it that way, like poker. Over the year, I always say, you're going to lose often more than you win, but when you win, you want to win big. So at the end of the year, you're up against the house, yeah? You've got to keep putting yourself in a position where you can score. You've got to keep putting yourself in front of the goal, putting yourself in a position where you can have a shot at the goal. And what new guys to game don't realize is that more times than less, you miss the penalty. I'm trying to make these football analogies when I blatantly don't know anything about football, but you get the idea. More no's than yeses. And I've spoken about this before in a recent video I've just put out on the day game funnel. You'll see my number collecting from last week, and you'll see how many of those numbers led to me texting her back and forth, and then how many of those numbers turned into dates, and then how many of those dates turned into lays. And I call it a funnel, like a sales funnel. Now, the problem with doing this as a job, and the problem with my selection bias brain, is that I focus on the good stuff. I focus on the positives. I've said in previous podcasts that when something bad happens or negative happens in game, I tend to zip it up in a mental bag and throw that bag in the river, forget about it, and keep pushing forward. And this is good for my game because I don't dwell in the past, I dwell on the future. But it's not good for telling others about these failure stories. And like I said, I think in that first Failure Stories podcast, when I wrote my early books, the first one was Day Game, the second one was Torero Travels. They are just lay reports, and they are copy and pasted from a private blog I used to keep, which chronicled my successes. So the first book, Day Game, I think it has 100 lay reports, and quite rightly, guys like the early bit when I'm talking about my woes and how I transformed and what I learned. They like the end bit, which is kind of questioning my position that I had got to. But lay after lay after lay after lay, I mean, boring, repetitive. Okay, you stop a girl, you get her number, she texts you back, you go on a date, bit of token LMR, you have sex, rinse and repeat. And after a while, people say, well, it's not perhaps relatable, because humans like juicy gossip, humans like drama, humans inherently are drawn towards failure because we can empathize with it, yeah? That's why motivational quotes and life coaches and those cheesy Facebook quotes are all about rising up after failure in true Batman style, yeah? How we rise up, or how well we rise up after falling down. So think of those quotes like, here's a cheesy one, hang on. Most great people have attained their success just one step beyond their greatest failure. Or failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. Yep, they're cheesy, but it's true. If you are a kid learning something, you fall down, you fall down, you fall down, you can walk. Or you wobble on your bike, then you can ride the bike. Or you fuck up with your language ability when you're learning a second language, and then it's unconsciously competent. So that's the trajectory for learning a skill set. You fall off the snowboard, you fall on your ass until you can stand up, you fall off the surfboard until you can stand up. With day game, blowout, 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 loads of flakes, nice guy day game, loads of LMR, until you see the successes coming in. And like I said, I focus on those successes, but perhaps I should be putting out a lot more blue ball stories, failure stories, blowout stories, flake stories, because when I look at my traffic, or when I look at comments, or when guys talk to me about what they actually empathize with and enjoy and understand and relate to and learn from, it's the failure stuff, it's the fuck up stuff. So the first big message to take away from this podcast is the failure rate, the grind. I've spoken about this as well in a Torero, Tom Torero video, embracing the grind, just understanding that there are more no's than yeses, that blowouts are normal and flakes are normal. It's how you deal with it. I see this with students on residentials. Some students take it really, really personally. Some can brush it off. And obviously it's the ones that can brush it off and move forward. They get good really fast. You'll be surprised at how many guys, they seem tough, they seem like they know the game, they can get numbers, they can get dates, but one little setback, one girl that didn't kiss them, or one bit of LMR, bang, that stops them gaming for a week or a month, or they say, oh, fuck it, and give up game. Because they've brought into the bullshit that you can get every girl, that it should be more yeses than nos. They take it really, really personally. And I suppose the bigger your ego, the more it's going to sting when you get a blowout, or you get a no to the number, or you get a no to the kiss, or she doesn't come back to yours, or even worse, you get the blue balls on the bed. So from my latest video, the funnel, you see that volume is a part of it. As I say in that video, no, it's not just a numbers game, because you have a baseline skill level. It should be repeatable. You should be able to get more solid numbers, more solid dates, and more lays than a guy who's never done it before. If it was just a numbers game, you against a guy who's never done it before, you both approach 50 women, you should have the same results. But that clearly that's not the case. So there is skill, but after that you want to be playing the volume game, not spam approaching, but volume of good, strong leads, which leads to texting. See how many fall off, see how many come on a date, see how many come back to yours, and you should have a rough idea that, okay, if I do this amount of day game, I'm going to go on this many dates, and I should be getting this many lays. Now, it's not a day game science. It's called pickup artistry, because it's fluid and it's dependable on so many things, but you should have a rough idea. And a lot of day gamers are going for 1 new lay a month. Very active day gamers might have 2 or 3 lays a month. If you're doing this all the time and you're obsessed about day gamer notches, you might be able to get 1 new lay a week. And if you add that up across the year, that's a lot of fucking lays with younger, hotter girls. But think about your number of rejections if you're doing it that hard, if you're number farming that hard, if you're going on that many dates. So let's dive into some Torero failure stories part 2. These are just ones I've jotted down. From now on, I'm going to really write down failures in detail. Or what I usually do after a successful lay is that I make a little dictaphone recording of it. So I should do this with the failures, because it's amazing how quickly you forget about successes and failures if you don't write them down or record them. If you're doing a lot of day game, you can hardly remember what happened last year, let alone 5 years ago. So if you want to have Casanova memoirs when you're an old man, make sure you write them down. What is not written down is lost, as they say in history. So these are ones that I've jotted down in the last year or so. Memorable ones, memorable fuck up ones. You've probably already heard me talking about the Saudi Arabian girl who I got back to the van in Banff in Canada. That was a failure. Never slept with her despite a second date. We had LMR because she was a strict Muslim virgin. The French girl who I nearly got in Vancouver, that's also on the previous podcast, 69 or 70, I can't remember. So they were memorable stings in Canada. A recent one in Central Europe, I had got the number of a waitress in a juice cafe. She was from Belarus, although she was very liberated because she had left Minsk and she was now living in Europe. And it seemed so on. It seemed so easy. And again, just like playing poker, you should never be that cocky where you say, this is in the bag, right? I said to myself, this is in the bag. It was so good. I had built up flirtatious banter with her over a few weeks. Got the number, texting was so strong. She was so keen to come out. First venue was easy, hands all over each other. Second venue, we were getting nice and drunk. Walked her to the door of my apartment. She was umming and ahhing. I was too cocky, and she was saying things like, oh, you think you can get all the girls, you're a British guy and you come and you do this and you just think you can have whatever you want. So clearly I was giving off way too cocky vibes. And I got her halfway inside the apartment building. Now, at the bottom of that apartment building was a kind of a 24-hour reception manned by what in Russia you'd call a babushka, an old, grumpy, Soviet-ish grandma who just checks on people coming in, coming out, very Soviet style. And I didn't know she was there as I was trying to get this girl into the apartment, overcoming token LMR, giving her a plausible reason, after seeding the bounce, you know, come up, tea, shisha, guitar, 10 minutes, blah, blah, blah. And I had her by the hand and we were kissing in the doorway. And then this grumpy babushka old lady appeared and started shouting in Russian, I think, to this Belarusian. Don't know what she said. Maybe she thought she was a prostitute or something. And that girl left and then never texted me back again. So blue balled at the door. That's always very painful when you have to come up to your room and then sit on the bed. And think how close, so close, but so far, so near, but so far. A similar one happened only this week with another suspiciously on girl that I had instant dated. She was a flirty teacher. It was very sexual from the start, and you should always be aware of this. I think I've spoken about it in a red flag video where it's so sexual. I was thinking, wow, this is too good to be true. Anyway, on that I date, I kind of kissed her, but it was the middle of the day, so she went home. Texting was good, flirty. Met up with her. She turned up looking like she'd come to have sex. Heels, black dress. I could see the sexy matching underwear, always a good sign. I didn't want to bounce her straight in. She said she wanted a walk. It was a sunny day, so we walked to a local park, lay by a lake. We kissed, hands all over each other. But again, she was really talking about kinky shit. And she wanted me to keep talking about it. She was baiting me into it. And I was trying to stop, but it was very easy to get flirtatious and sexual with her. I thought, well, this is in the bag anyway, so fuck it. So we spoke about dirty fantasies and stuff. Again, walked her to my door. She wouldn't come up. She said she wanted to walk around even more. I was like, no, you go and do your shopping. We'll meet later for a drink. And what do you know? She vanished. So a lot of this year has been about me pulling, overdoing it, like I've said before, because I'm filming this stealth seduction thing. And the more you do dig in, the more easily you get bored. I pull too hard. I'm too outwardly playerish. And girls can smell it on you a mile off. And okay, a little bit's good. If it's under the radar, it's good. If it's secret society, it's good. If you roll off, it's good. But if you're just on, escalate, don't give a fuck, you lose a lot. You burn a lot of sets. And I've tried to re-engage with her on text, and so far, nothing. So that was a bit of a waste. I had a tease in Poland. I remember a girl that was almost the same day, middle of the day, shopping mall, instant date in Costa. Again, very sexual, very flirty in Costa. So I brought her home. As soon as we got into my place, big resistance, and she was teasing me, and she would, she said I couldn't hug her or kiss her. She could only do it to me. She liked dominating. It was weird. I let her do it for a bit. She kind of gave me a little dance on a chair in my living room. She kissed me, she kissed my neck, but every time I went to hold her, she was like, no. Cock tease, classic. Anyway, more texting back and forth, and we arranged for a Saturday date, I think it was. And we had been talking about what underwear she was going to wear and that she could stay over, blah, blah, blah. And on Saturday, I'd had another date that was running over. So I just texted her something simple like, listen, let's push it back a bit. Instead of, I think it was 7, let's meet at 9. She went mad because she's a princess. She refused to come at 9. She said it was too late. She was moaning. Then I said, okay, Sunday. And then she flipped out and said, no, you've wasted your opportunity. Game playing, madam. We'll never see her again, I suspect. And don't even want to. Bad vibes coming off that one. If you get bad vibes off a girl, it's not really worth the late unless she's smoking hot, because it affects your vibe. So that was another one. What else I've jotted down? Oh yeah, earlier this year in Berlin, you might remember I was in Berlin as part of the Black Sheep thing, and I was teaching in Berlin. I think it was snowing. It was very early on in the year. It was cold, and there I met a girl, a cabin crew girl for Emirates Airlines, that was living in Dubai and had moved back to Germany. She was German. She was very sexy, very beautiful. It had been a really good story because I'd number closed her on a night flight, and it was very sexual, and it was super on. And then I met her a few months later in Berlin, in Germany, and it was super on again. She came back to the room. Long story short, token LMR, which is, if you don't know by now, it's a girl getting to the last stage of the seduction dance, and then her forebrain kicks in. The hindbrain is the primitive DNA part where she's wanting to have sex. The forebrain bit is the social conditioning or the religious conditioning. She doesn't want to be a slut. Maybe that kind of guy she's seeing comes into the forefront of her mind. She doesn't want to feel used. She needs a bit more comfort. She's actually looking for a boyfriend, whatever. That kicks in, and it's quite normal, token LMR, because girls are showing you that, look, they're not super sluts. It's a healthy thing. It's part of the whole dominance dance. But some girls, either they're cock teasers or they're on their period, or it's just too fast. With her, I think she was just another cock tease. We would make out. I'd bite her neck. I kissed her boobs. We got half naked, and every time I nearly went for it, no. Barriers came down, so obviously you roll off, take a step back, watch some more of the music videos I think we were watching, try again, and you reach the point finally where she's like, no, I'm going to go home. And that was that. So that was a shame. That was a loss. In this list is bringing up terrible memories. I've got, in Colombia earlier this year when I was there with Rami the Great, I had a basic number closed leading to a date with a hottie who came back to the apartment. We were getting on the bed. We'd watched a bit of the movie, and I went to the bathroom, and I came back and I saw her hand behind her back. She was like trying to put something back into her bag, and that freaked me out a little bit. I was like, oh, what's in your hand? And she wouldn't show me. So we had a bit of this weird standoff where I was like, what's in your hand? No, I'm not going to show me. I'm not going to show you. Well, what is it? And then she showed me it was a little flick knife. Now, she wasn't going to stab me. She had this flick knife because she said that in Colombia that's normal. Girls carry them in their bags. There's lots of dodgy guys. But from there on in, it suddenly got really weird, obviously, because I was still lying on the bed with her, but then I could see that she had this knife in her bag. She was acting really weirdly. And the house of cards just collapsed. All the sexual tension collapsed. Psycho girl kicked her out eventually with the help of Rami the Great. That was a memorable one. That must be in a book sometime. That was fucking weird. Frustrating ones. One in Tokyo, a beautiful graphic designer who I took on multiple dates. She was very shy. She was so cool, both in her fashion, in her look, in her personality. And I was pushing too fast. Again, I was there with my mate Tim, and we were only there, I think, for a couple of weeks. I was pushing, or rather pulling. We say in game, pull, escalate. And she wanted something slower. Maybe girls have had bad experiences, or they really are that naive. They just need a bit more slowing down. And she knew I was going home. So we got, again, 90% of the way there, but no P in V. They're always the most frustrating ones when you come so near, but you don't come. In Tokyo, I had an English girl, an 18-year-old English girl. What? Daygame works on English girls? Yes, it does. She was doing an internship in Tokyo. I met her in a Starbucks. We went out that evening. It was super on. She was a bit of a madam, actually, because we got naked and I was basically inside her. And then she was like, no, I'm going to go home now. God knows why. Again, it's not good to massively deconstruct what happened and wallow in self-pity and think, oh no, what did I do wrong? That was just another one that didn't happen. But if I hadn't written that down, I would have forgotten about it, but it's on the list. So I will pad these out into stories at some point. Another Polish story. I had a Polish virgin who I had met, I think, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Then I went back to Poland to do a residential. She came back on the radar. She would come over, we would kiss, we would touch. She gave me a hand job. I was fingering her, and I almost got to the point of taking her virginity. And then she was just like, no, 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 you're a player. She wanted a sweet Polish boyfriend. Again, I was rushing things. If I lived in Poland, if I took it slower, if I did a bit more rapport, if I agreed to play the boyfriend role or pretended to play the boyfriend role, which is what a lot of hustlers do, I could have got the notch, but I didn't. So that was sad, because she was very pretty, and taking a girl's virginity, always a good story. I got Soho disaster with a Greek girl. Last time I was living in London, I was living in seedy Soho, and outside my door I met a Greek girl, classic same day lay, backpacker tourist kind of Greek girl. Took her to some seedy bars, Freedom Bar in Soho, if you know it. Upstairs a normal bar, downstairs loads of poles. We were on the poles, I was on the pole, she was on the pole. It was fucking weird. Great weird venue to go to. Real spike of sexual energy in there. She came back to my room super fast, fingering her, P almost in V, and then she remembered her boyfriend in Greece, and sometimes you can't overcome it. So she left. That was a failure. Are you getting the pattern here? That it's normal to fail. You can fail at different points in the game. Now, another guy would be just hanging his head in his hands, giving up game. Oh no, it's me. It's all terrible. Why is this happening? It's part of the game. If it's not happening, then I don't believe you're playing the game hard enough. If a guy says he's never getting token LMR or he's losing penalty shots, he's not a gamer. He's just gaming yes girls. That's fool's mate, Mr. used to call it, yeah? I've written down Riga girl with boyfriend. There was a very pretty girl who, again, it was a quick demo number closed for a student in Riga, Latvia. And the next time I went back, she seemed super on. She worked in a coffee shop. I met her after work. She came back to mine. She explained she'd been living with her boyfriend for 2 years, and he was a very nice, stable, reliable guy who she was going to marry. But she had those wild eyes. Maybe it was the time of the month. We made out. She gave me a hand job. We were fooling around on the bed. I think I got a blowjob off her. She came out again the next day. She was super tempted, but no, forebrain kicked in at the last minute. She went back to her boyfriend, and this year I've seen that they are now engaged. So there you go. Secret society doesn't always finish in a lay, but you could see her wrestling between forebrain and hindbrain. Women's dual mating strategy. If you don't know what that is, check out Street Hustle, the biology underpinning all this stuff. I've had numerous copious dates to nowhere this year where I've got the number, texting's been good, going on the date, and like I said, because I've been doing a lot of them for the product, Stealth Seduction, I've been too on. And whereas it should be implied, I've been explicit saying things because I know the camera's rolling or the microphone's on. And the girl just thinks, this is too playerish. This is too well rehearsed. This is too slick. This is too smooth. Triggers too much. Token LMR, ASD, anti-slut defense, and I've lost them. Maybe I've kissed them. Usually I kiss them and then they don't come back for the second date. So too much pulling. When I've moved from city to city to city, I'm losing leads constantly. The attrition is horrible. When I used to live in London, it was much easier to get laid. Remember, my first 100 lays were in London, pretty much, because if a girl fell off the map, well, you could wait, forget about her, she'd come back on the radar 3 months later. Or you could juggle dates. It didn't really matter. But when you're in city to city to city to city, you're pushing really hard, or rather pulling really hard, trying to get the lay. You leave the city, and then the depressing thing is you might be in an airport, you're in another country, and you get a late night message from a girl, hey, where are you? I'm in the centre. Fuck it. So often it's about backing the right horse, I say, when you're doing day game and travel. You have to really think, well, which lead is the outstanding one? Where do I stand the highest chance? And oftentimes you are wrong. Often it's the strong sets, I say to students on the street. Often it's the eye dates, the ones where you think, fuck, that was good. Fuck, that was top level game. That is solid, super solid. Guaranteed lay. She doesn't text you back. Whereas it's often the throwaway sets, counterintuitively, ironically, the ones you do when you're a bit sleepy or your vibe's shit. I had one the other day where I was on my way to buy a SIM card for my dongle for my laptop. I wasn't gaming, I was feeling croaky and hungover, I looked like shit. And there on the zebra crossing was a very leggy flamingo kind of girl. Ran in front of her, 17-year-old, instant dated her, bounced her back to mine. She's a virgin, but that lead is super strong. It's going well. So that was a throwaway set. I had random sets last week that were just demos for students. They turned out to be really strong leads. So you never know. It's like a sick mind game that God plays with you, or karma plays with you, or the universe plays with you, or chance, probability, randomness plays with you, whatever your belief system. But it's part of the game. So let's go 360 back to the beginning of the podcast. It's how well we do after falling. How well do we rise up, Batman would say. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. So listening to some of those stories, those tidbits, you should be thinking, yeah, I've had that, I get a lot of that, that happens to me all the time. If you're not, then either you're not day gaming at all, and you have this idea that it's just lay, which is partly my fault because you've read Day Game or Torero Travels, or you just read lay reports, or you're going out and day gaming and you're just playing finding the yes girl. So is that girl hotter than you or younger than you, or are you settling for less? Even worse, are you getting like Tinder lays that are guaranteed? Yes, they are guaranteed lays, but is she hotter than you? Is she younger than you? Are you proud of that girl? Was that really a well, it wasn't a cold approach, it was a Tinder, but was it really game? Or was that another kind of a drunk girl in a bar where, yeah, you're drunk, she's drunk, you're horny, she's horny, taxi back to yours, you fuck, no LMR, and you go, yo bro, I never get LMR, I never get failure. You're not pushing out of your comfort zone, yeah? If you're going for the 8s, 9s and 10s, you certainly will, my friend, be getting blowouts, flakes, near misses, blue balls. That's showing you that you are playing outside your comfort zone, which is uncomfortable. It does sting, but like every cheesy life coach says, every sports coach says, that's how you grow. That's what builds muscle, the mental muscle of being able to carry on, pick yourself up and carry on. And lo and behold, eventually you keep rolling the dice, you'll get that 6 with a nice foundation skill level of hustling. You'll be able to make it predictable, you'll be able to make it repeatable. Sure, it goes up and down, but at the end of the year you'll be winning against the house. So failures, it's the path to success. Success as in S-E-X. That was podcast 72. Next one will be from Wales, I think. I've got to go home and see my mother for a little bit before I'm in Prague. Then I'm in a bit more Central Europe, and then the Euro Tour begins. Don't forget that Euro Tour, the October dates. Give me an email if you want one of the remaining places. Cologne on the 15th of October, Munich on the 17th of October, Vienna 19th of October, Prague 21st of October, Krakow 23rd of October, 12 to 5 p.m, 600 quid. There we go. Speak to you next week. Ta-da.